Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the LaunchPad Associate Workshop on Cart Fleet Management. The LaunchPad Associate Workshop is part of an 8-week-long series on all of the work experience activities for the PGM program for Level 1. We want to welcome Arvo Voip, a PGA head golf professional from the Springs Country Club in Rancho Mirage, California. Arvo was originally from the Bay Area, went to San Jose State. He's worked at San Jose Country Club and played professionally for a little while before getting into the business on the service side. He had been going back and forth between the Tahoe, Truckee area in the summers and Palm Desert, Palm Springs in the winters. After securing the head golf professional position at the Springs, he became a full-time desert rat and is in the Coachella Valley 12 months a year. He just had a baby 2 weeks ago. Congratulations, Arvo. And again, thank you for volunteering your time to come on the LaunchPad Associate Workshops to help support the associates with Cart Fleet Management. It's all yours, Arvo. How are you today?
I'm pretty good. I'm sure everybody's excited as I am to talk about cart fleet management because it's why we all got into this business. I'm pretty sure.
But you know what? You had alluded to a joke about cart fleet management not being the sexiest topic of all the books in the Level 1 curriculum. However, from a monetary standpoint, more times than not, the cart fleet is the biggest and most expensive asset that the golf professional is charged with maintaining. So it's very, very important. And, it's not rocket science, but if it's not done right, things could go wrong real quick. And once they go wrong, they stay wrong, and hard to undo a lot of the wrongs that take place from poor cart fleet management. I'm sure we all have a ton of horror stories on what we've seen in terms of what a lot of clubs are doing with their cart fleet. But we'll get into that a little bit in the Q&A here shortly. But until then, Arvo, take us away.
Okay, yeah, and like I said, thank you for letting me join you guys today for this. As we're talking about horror stories, I'm in the middle of a horror story right now because my new fleet of carts here was supposed to be delivered in September, and I have not seen them yet. So luckily, it's a small fleet.
Yeah, they're not. If they were supposed to be there in September, you're probably going to be lucky to see them by mid-April. Same thing happened to me at the club that I'm at. They were supposed to be delivered in July, and we got them mid-December, actually like 5 days before Christmas. So.
Yeah, so and when we're talking about cart fleet management, before I get into this, this is we were expecting to put our fleet that we have right now on a truck on the way out the door in September. And so there was a lot of upkeep over the summer that was not necessarily neglected because we just didn't think we were going to have to do it. And so we've been playing catch up all season as we're trying to piece batteries and parts together to make sure that we have a working fleet for our membership. Luckily, we only have 20 carts because we have a membership that mostly has private carts, but it's definitely been a challenge, and it's cost us quite a bit of money on the revenue line. So it's been a challenge with this. But so let's get into this. I know everybody that's here is just trying to get into their PGA programs, and if you're in the Level 1 is by far the most time consuming and intensive. You get through your Level 1 and it seems like 2 and 3 go really fast. It's as we're trying to do this in season and you're trying to go through and get this done while you're working long hours, and in most of our cases, long hours with short pay. It's tough to get this done, but I'll tell you what, you stick through it and you get through it, and there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So we'll go right into this. We got cart fleet management. Let's see if I can do. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have read through all this. Actually, I got to drop those. There we go. Approximately 1 million golf carts. We all know these numbers. The big thing is, the major golf cart manufacturers, they all do some things really well, and they all do some things not so well. I was fortunate to work in the mountains where we used a lot of gas golf carts, and I'll tell you what, E-Z-GO and Yamaha had much more reliable gas carts than Club Car. Club Car here where we're using electric golf carts. They tend to be much better. They're better for us on our service side. Like it says here, this is a great opportunity if a cart fleet is managed properly and you've done well with it. It is a great way to increase your revenue. It's a steady stream, especially in today's golf. There's very few people that walk in most places. Unless you're at a private club, you may have your walkers, but if you go to public golf courses or resort golf courses, there is very few that walk anymore. And of course, the importance of an efficient, functional cart fleet. And we'll get into that. That's, it's like anything else you have. If you take care of it, it will be good for you. You don't take care of it, it's going to cause you a lot of issues. We'll move on. All right, so a successful cart fleet. The fleet we have to match the vision of our facility. Here I'm at a private club where we have a lot of member-owned carts. We have 817 homes. I think there's 1,100 golf carts in the community. Many have 2 golf carts. We don't have a whole lot of rental carts, so we're able to purchase our carts versus buying. They're going to last a lot longer. We also have a full-time cart mechanic who takes care of them. It's very important to make sure that you have the right amount of carts. I worked at a resort facility where we did a lot of big events, 144 person shotguns. You got to have a fleet that can service that. And at that point, you're talking 72 to 80 carts. That's a big expenditure when it comes to signing a lease for carts. And so, to make sure that you're profitable and you can do well with your cart fleet, you have to be very aware of what your needs are when you come to it. And you don't want to have carts that don't get used. If they're sitting there not going out, you're not making money off them, and we're in trouble in that case. The cart amenities, of course, these days most carts do come GPS. There's all kinds of different things, ball washers, coolers. I would prefer in a lot of cases the coolers weren't on there. It tends to lead to more issues with the carts, but we'll get into that as we go on. So again, as we talk about leasing versus buying and buying used, hopefully we're all in a situation where we're going to have a new cart fleet. Like I said, here at a private club, we buy our carts, so we know we can put the maintenance into them. We'll get a good run out of them, hopefully longer than the lease. We have a full-time cart mechanic. In the situation of being in a resort or a public facility, a lot of times it is a lot better to lease the carts because they stay under warranty. You have there's a lot of things that can go wrong in golf carts these days. It's computer chips, there's batteries. As we're getting the lithium batteries, they last a lot longer. But all those go into the decision of what you're looking for a cart fleet at your facility. Having worked in the mountains, we always had to go with gas golf carts because before lithium batteries just didn't last going up and down hills and so gas golf carts were much more efficient. You got longer life cycles out of them and a lot less upkeep on them. So all those things go into when you're choosing your correct golf cart fleet, and it really is just dependent on what your facility needs and where it's located. All right, we're going to look on to pricing the fleet properly. Like anything else, what are we doing in this day and age? All golf clubs are priced similarly. You pay for the accessories. And so when you're talking about golf carts and you look into it, you'll see, again, like gas golf carts, in my experience, were always a little bit cheaper. You don't have the batteries, there's less weight to them, there's less. Now it also leads to you need to have a good mechanic because there is an internal combustion engine that needs to have oil changed and service done on a regular basis versus an electric cart. And that, so when we're talking, the different vendors, they all, like I said, have their strengths and weaknesses. The big thing is always making sure that it matches your facility's goals and that what you're trying to accomplish. If you're like I am here, we have 20 golf carts that are basically for members' guests when they come in. So we want golf carts that'll get them around the golf course. We're not overly concerned about, we don't have GPS on them because the member carts don't have GPS. So, it's not a big thing at a course like this. like we talked earlier, nowadays, pretty much everything is cart included. You see very few walking golf courses. If you are at a public or a resort golf course that promotes walking, that's awesome. I still love to carry my golf bag, but most places you go, the cart fee is just included with the round of golf. And, you know, and you break that down in your budget lines, what you're getting for it. Spectator fees. I love the single rider and spectator fees. As we're coming out of COVID, I don't know how many other people struggled with this, but the single rider carts that people got used to with COVID restrictions became very, very tough on cart fleets. If you send out every person in a golf cart, you just cut your fleet in half, and you can only accommodate so many rounds of golf. That becomes very challenging. You'll run into times where you can only walk. You're not getting the money for your cart. You know, if you're charging, say, $20 a seat in a cart, well, if you're sending single rider carts during COVID, we were only charging $20. You're only getting half price on your cart. That makes that lease, or if you bought them, a lot less efficient. And spectator fees, another great one. If you're at a resort facility or a public facility, is when people walk in and, I just want to drive around and watch my spouse play golf or watch my kids play golf. That cart still has value to you going out there. And so, making sure that you price your fees properly to cover, and we always charged a premium on spectator carts. It was $40 to take a spectator cart out. You were paying for the whole golf cart. And that's very important because that cart is still taking the wear and tear of being out there, and you might as well get paid for it. This is what I think is the most important part of our part as golf professionals, especially as you're most of us, as we were an apprentice or an assistant golf professional, you're probably not signing the lease on the budget, and you're not writing the budgets, but keeping the golf carts in good condition and well maintained. Not a hard job to do, but like we were talking at the beginning, if you get behind on this can become an absolute disaster. So it's very important as you're going through to, of course, have a good cleaning process. That goes into training your staff outside to understand how to properly clean a golf cart. And it really depends on the situation, the place you're in. Here in the desert, you don't see very much mud. You don't see much kick up. We wash our golf carts off with an air compressor and a little wipe down with a towel. Where I was at in the mountains, we saw a lot of dirt, a lot of mud. You get wet grass clippings. You had to clean under the undercarriage a lot, clean the battery compartments. It depends on where you're at, but you want to be able to present a good product to your customers. And so having a clean golf cart, and you'll see this as you go on in the PGA program, it's really one of your moments of truth. When people walk in and they see your golf carts, that's they will give a judgment on your golf course right there, seeing your golf carts if they're staged in the parking lot and they're loading up. You have a clean, organized cart fleet that is looking good. They walk in there thinking you got everything under control. Whether we do or not is another story, but if we can give them that impression, that's a great thing. Responsibility for basic maintenance. Depending on your facility, here I employ a full-time cart mechanic. He's absolutely amazing. He takes care of all our golf carts. We have a rotation schedule where he, checks all the water in the batteries. There's tire pressure is checked at least once a week to make sure that the carts are in proper alignment and not any extra wear and tear on it. If there's any little things in the carts, our outside staff notes it, and he usually approaches it within a couple of days. If you're fortunate enough to have that is a great thing to have. Like I said, I was at a resort course for a long time. We had an 80 cart fleet, and we had a mechanic that was our maintenance mechanic, and he had 3 days a month that he would work on our golf carts. That would include watering the batteries, doing any maintenance, general maintenance that needed to be done, whether it was, replacing a windshield, replacing seats, replacing bag straps, replacing baskets, any of that stuff. And so we had to be very diligent with making sure that when those days came around that he was working on our golf cart fleet, that we had those lined up and he had work orders ready for him. The other thing is, and if you've been at a resort course, this makes me smile when I see this, how are broken and non-pro carts reported to golf professionals? Well, usually you see them when they come rolling in after they finish playing golf and they're dragging a tire behind them, or they're got a little bit of rubber being left behind. But it's always good to, with anything, and especially in a case where you're going to have to go to a customer and actually bill them for this in the parts, is that you need to keep very documented accounts of what happened. And so it's if you have not if you're a facility, you do not have a incident sheet. We always had one that had exactly what happened to the cart, a place where, of course, we would set it up in the computer so you could take pictures of it, and make sure that you have very good tracking on it, because there will be people that will fight you on it, say they didn't do it. And, you know, it comes around when you're trying to collect money for something that's broken on your cart. It hurts when that money comes out of your operating budget for something that somebody else did. So having a good tracking system on that and making sure that you have good information as, you know, how it to be reported. I always had a stack. I still have a stack here of sheets that our outside guys, if they see any damage to the carts, they fill it out right away. I get a copy, and then the cart mechanic gets a copy. We keep track of those so that we know what service has been done on the golf carts. If there's any parts that need to be ordered, we can attach, you know, the invoicing, so we know exactly how much we've spent on every golf cart to keep it maintained. We're gonna move on here. Training your staff. This is really big when it comes to being at a resort facility. I know I no longer take operating rules and rental agreements because we have it in our club charter that a member's guests are under the member's account. So if there's any damage, the member is responsible for that. But if you are in a public facility or you are in a place that does a lot of outside rounds, it is very important to have a very good cart rental agreement. It, you know, states out everything that they're responsible for, and that they have to sign out for a proper operation of the golf cart. That's very simple, whether you have a starter that's having that fill that out, whether you haven't filled it out when it's at a check-in, any which way. It just, and there's plenty of great examples through the PGA. I believe on the PGA site, you can find some really good examples of them. Basically what you're doing is you're covering your liabilities with those. If they've signed off on it and you've got them to agree to the operating rules and the rental agreement and the safety procedures, if you have an accident on the golf course, it helps you in, first of all, collecting for any damages. It also helps you with liability in if somebody is injured, if property is damaged. So it's very important to make sure that you have clear policies on that, and to make sure that your staff understands those policies and how to enforce them and how to get people to cooperate with them. Safety procedures. A lot of courses now have GPS systems that'll cut you off if you get too close to a tee box, too close to a green. You know, it helps you enforce policies. If not, you know, those are great to be posted in either on the steering wheel. You'll see it on the windshield of the carts. As long as they're posted and people can see them, it's a lot easier to enforce them. If you have a marshal, or if you're, as a golf professional, you're going out to enforce those rules, it's a lot easier if it is right in front of their face or they've signed off on it to enforce any of those policies on where carts can go. And it's very important, because the last thing you want is somebody driving across a green or across the tee box. You know, again, those are the areas that we ask carts to stay away from for a reason. We want to keep them presentable. We want them to look really good. And usually a little taller grass, the taller grass as you drive across really pounds down with those carts. Accident reporting, we went over that a little bit before. It's very, you know, again, very important to have detailed documentation on any accident, and to make sure that you address it as ASAP, as soon as possible, so that it's not something that you find in the morning when the cart comes out, oh, a cart's broken, and then you have to go track somebody down. Your staff that's receiving the carts needs to be aware that if they see any damage, that is the first priority, is to make whoever is in charge of filling out those reports aware of that in a timely manner. Training staff on safety procedures. I know we were talking about this before we got started. Finding outside staff is challenging right now. You know, it's hard to pay good staff for an outside job. And so you have to be very careful. We work with a lot of young men and women that might not have driven a lot, and you know, get in a golf cart and they can be a little reckless, we'll say, in golf carts. Some of the worst damage I've seen to golf carts is done by staff. They'll get a little careless. You do it all the time. Run into somebody, catch a corner of the cart barn where you're parking it. It's very important to keep the staff properly trained and to oversee that they are safely taking care of your carts, moving them around, and not, like, you know, as I said, we deal with a lot of younger people, and I was there once too. I've wrecked a few carts myself as a young kid washing carts at San Jose Country Club. I ripped a bumper off one time. It was not my proudest moment, but it was a good learning experience. But making sure that we keep our staff aware of the procedures and making sure that they are properly operating our carts is a huge part of keeping your carts in great shape. All right, so now we're going to go into the fun part of this, which is talking about your work experience portfolio and the activities in there. Pretty simple. Talking to your golf professional at your facility, everybody's is different. You know, and everybody has a little bit different philosophy on how to operate a cart fleet. The biggest thing is we always wanted, this is one of our big opportunities. It's a great revenue stream for the golf course. You can, if you operate a successful cart fleet and you have either purchasing them out or have a good lease, this is a great way to make revenue at a golf course. And of course, we have to make sure that we take care of our assets. And so that's why all that we've talked about so far, and as you see through this, is knowing your maintenance schedule, knowing your cleaning procedures, knowing your daily checklist of your carts. Just going into that momentarily, I had, with an 80 cart fleet, I had our outside staff, they had a booklet, and every day they had 10 carts that they were responsible for checking the tire pressure in and checking the battery levels, the distilled water in the batteries. Most days they didn't have to do anything, but we always wanted to catch those early. If you had a tire that was a little low, well, of course it was going to make the cart drive a little funny. It was going to wear the tires. Tires are expensive as you start getting into year 3, year 4 of owning carts or leasing carts. And so the more that we can keep those in good shape and stay on top of it, the better you're going to be at the end of a lease and going through, and that will help your financial performance. And so again, as you go through this activity, I know it's not the sexiest of activities in our program, but it is a very important asset to you as a golf professional. If you can learn this and operate it good, looks great on a resume. It's something that is overlooked, but it is a very important part of being a PGA professional if you're on the business side of things. As I'm looking through this, my favorite part of this is moments of truth. Your golf cart fleet represents your facility in many cases before your golf shop, before your staff. People come in and depending on where you stage your golf carts, they see your golf carts right away. It's very important to keep your golf carts in the best shape that you can, making sure that they're staged properly and looking good and for your customers as they show up to play. If any of you run big tournament operations, it's very important when somebody shows up to a tournament to see that carts are staged in a proper manner and they're easy to find where they're going to. And that it's a little off of what we're talking about here, but I think that is a very important thing as you're going forward as golf professionals, is just to be aware of those little details. All right, and as we go through, I hope you guys get to talk to your professionals about this, and I hope they open the books up to you and let you see, you know, exactly how much money is spent, how much money is made off the golf carts and the budget lines, because it's pretty interesting when you get into it. All right, going on. this is where we become, as you know, if you're an assistant professional, or in my case, I work for a director of golf as head professional, staff size, organization, training methods, the policies and procedures, the rotation storage, this is something that becomes our responsibility as golf professionals. So as we go through here, we want to make sure that, again, staff size, that goes against, you know, that's expenses against your golf carts. And so we need to make sure that we can do our job properly without overstaffing. If you're only sending 40 carts out, you don't need 6 people to wash them. If you're sending 120 carts out in a day, you may need those 6. Training your staff. It's very important to have a consistent process with the golf carts. If you can keep them clean and everybody does the same job, I'll tell you what, it makes our job a lot easier. Rental policies and procedures, we went over that, is making sure that you have, you know, proper rental agreements, and you have, again, a procedure to get people checked in and get signed out for those. The golf cart rotation and storage procedures, again, very important, because you don't want, if you have an 80 cart fleet, you don't want cart number 1 going out every day and cart number 80 not coming out of the barn. We'd like to keep the hours very even on them. So if you are purchasing, if you own the carts, they'll last longer. And if you're leasing them, you will actually get a little bit more back on your lease, or you can buy them out and resell them at a little bit better rate if they have even hours on them versus being overused. Maintenance and malfunction procedures, and of course, record keeping practices. You have a cart mechanic, or you just got to keep track of it, you know, and make sure that they're dealt with in a timely manner. All right, this we don't really need to go over. All right, checklist. This is just a couple that the PGA gives you with some different closing checklists and a cart barn clean. I'm sure we all have one of these. You know, it's never a bad idea to look over it once in a while and make sure everybody's actually following it, and, you know, maybe make a couple tweaks to them. Here's an example of a financial summary of golf carts, and you can see this is, if you look through these, and this, I don't know if this is the one you actually are using in the level or in the 3.0 series. I was a 2.0 graduate, so I don't know if this is the one that's used for your portfolio, if you're doing it from your own facility. But it's very important, because you look at your total expenses, you look at your revenue in here. Whoops. This is a big income every year, your cart fleet. It's a very big income. Now, I wish I could say it, a golf course with 80 golf carts, that we made that kind of money off our carts, but this is one of your biggest revenue sources. So it's very important to follow everything that we were talking about there earlier. And if you have a successful cart fleet, you're going to have a successful business. Going through example leases here. Again, this is it looks like 2020, which the Tempo Lithium. Again, looking at what you have, you know, what you add into your 80 cart 60-month lease. Speakers, all depends what you want for your membership or for your clientele. You know, like I said, we have none of the bells and whistles on carts here, because we don't need them. They're for guests of the members, and we don't need the speakers. We don't need the GPS systems, and now we have a cooler and a ball washer on them. You go to a nice resort course, well, you may want to have the nice GPS system with, you know, the shark experience and climate controlled and that. So it's really, that is truly up to your facility. And, you know, this is a great example of a good lease. Oh, and so it looks like right there, that kind of follows through what we had to go through here. I'm open to any questions on this. I know this is a pretty straightforward, it's kind of a time consumer as you do it, but I can't stress how much that this is really important to you as a PGA professional, and being able to add value to your facility, whether it's a membership group or whether it's an ownership group. You know, this is a big asset to you to understand this and to be able to go through and be involved with it, because this really does, you know, it sets the bar, the precedence for your facility, not only as what your clientele sees, but on the bottom line. And, you know, and we are in a business where the bottom line matters. So it's really important to be diligent with managing our cart fleet, whether it's the most exciting thing or not to do. So I'm open to any questions. I don't know if we had any questions pop up in there.
Thank you,
Sorry, I'm trying to
Arvo.
get to the-
Yes,
Yeah.
I got some questions here. You got a couple examples on successful moments of truth, and can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can tell you, a couple that I've had really, and this is going to go back to more my time at resort golf courses. When you get the customer that shows up and their name placards on the cart, and they come up and you have an outside service staff that's trained to load them up on to the golf court properly, and they see it. Clean golf carts are a great thing. If you've ever walked into a facility, you went up and you see a golf cart and there's mud on the tire, or there's still a beer can in the cup holder because they just flip that cart around because they want to use it again. That is a big moment of truth, because it's as you walk into it, me personally, I get the feeling like maybe these guys don't have really control over what's going on out here. If I walk in, everything's organized and clean, I'm ready to just go play golf. I'm not worried about, am I paying too much to do this? Am I, overextending? And again, staging of carts, and I know this is a little different in the cart fleet management, but I think it's huge to have carts staged properly. Presentation is everything when somebody walks into, much like our golf shops. We don't want our golf shops to look disorderly and out of control. And so if our cart fleet looks good, it instills a little confidence that, you're coming to an up and up facility or a 5-star facility.
When you had mentioned before we started the webcast that staffing has been an issue at the Springs, especially with outside services, but you did mention that you do have a full-time mechanic. Is that somebody who's tied to the grounds maintenance department, or is he a golf department employee?
He's a golf department employee. He helps out a little with the outside service. We're very fortunate here. He's been here for 35 years. And so, if we do lose him at some time, it's going to be very hard to replace him. And that just, being able to pay him what he's worth. But, he does, like I said, again, my facility here, we have 817 homes with upwards of 1,100 golf carts. And so, we bring the batteries in by the pallets. People are dropping off golf carts every day that have little wiring issues, different stuff, private golf carts that he works on here. And, it's, again, another revenue line for the club because we charge for that service, and, he's compensated well for it. But yeah, we're just very fortunate that we've had him for 35 years. I dread the day that I'm going to have to replace him.
Yeah, we're seeing that trend, particularly when it comes to the preventative maintenance practices on the fleet. It's hard enough to keep an outside service staff that's there for the right reasons and does a good job cleaning the carts and following your opening and closing procedures and plugging them in and bringing them out, putting them away. We're seeing a growing trend with a lot of clubs that are employing the maintenance contract from the cart vendor, whether it's Club Car or Yamaha or EasyGo, foregoing trying to do the preventative maintenance in-house and just contracting that with the cart vendor, just because it's too hard to do. It's like the club that I'm at, pre-COVID, the club had a long-term head golf professional who was really like a superstar, and he managed to do the preventative. He and overseeing the outside operations. That team, for the longest time, they did all the PM maintenance on the cart fleet, particularly with keeping the batteries watered with deionized water. And then that head professional left and went to a different club, and then a combination of the club went through 3 head golf professionals in 3 years. And the pandemic was in that time as well. And basically what had happened was the carts stopped getting, the batteries stopped getting watered. So they went dry, and of course that messes up the specific gravity in the batteries. And once that happens, it doesn't matter if you put deionized water in them or not; they're worthless after they've gone dry, which basically is what happened. And so I started at this club in November, end of October, and they were still on the old Easy Go fleet that they had basically ran into the ground and let the batteries go dry, and they weren't taking care of them. Combination, and like I said, 3 head pros in 3 years, and amidst the pandemic as well. They were supposed to get the new fleet, which are club car. They were supposed to get that in July, and we didn't get those until December. But just seeing the aftermath of the old neglected Easy Go fleet. I mean, they had a fleet of 75 that the club owned, mind you. And when I got there at the end of October, of the 75 Easy Goes, they had probably 40, maybe not even 40 that were operable. The cart barn was really like a golf cart graveyard. And that was really just the tip of the iceberg. So fast forward to December when the club car fleet did arrive, and we unloaded the old Easy Go fleet back to club car for a credit towards the new fleet. We just forewent the concept of maintaining them ourselves, and we just got the contract with club car for them to come twice a month, or actually for them to come 3 times a month or 4 times a month to water batteries and do tire pressure and all the other stuff that comes in the preventative maintenance package. Just because, it's hard enough to keep a team of service-oriented outside personnel to do the basics, let alone that next level of actually maintaining the fleet and doing all the preventative maintenance, just because it's so hard in this market.
Yeah, you're completely right there. I've looked into those. I've never had experience with with the preventative maintenance through one of the vendors. I would think that's where, if I ever lost my cart mechanic here, that's where we would end up going, because it's
right.
I'm sure financially it breaks down to it probably save you a little bit in the long run.
Well, yeah, and it's just the peace of mind of having it done. It works out with Club Car, we pay $25 a month per cart to have a basically a weekly visit. And the weekly visit, they basically address a quarter of the fleet, so that after a 30-day period, they've touched every cart. Every cart's getting watered at least once a month, and all the other stuff, all the little incidentals. And of course, there's stuff that $25 doesn't cover, like when someone damages a cart, or you got a cart that's not working for whatever reason, or has damage to it. They'll also, for an additional fee, they'll take care of that cart and fix it. But at least, you've got that peace of mind knowing that you don't have to staff that, or you don't have to manage that yourself, because, the guys that, like you have, a 35-year vet who's been there and does all the members' carts too. I mean, that's a dying commodity right there, so many clubs, especially clubs that we don't have any private carts at my club. Every single member only uses the fleet that we have, because we don't have any homes that line our clubs. So yeah. Anybody else have anything you'd like to share regarding the fleets that you maintain at your clubs, or best practices that you could share? Ryan, Chuck, Taylor, Shane, anybody want to jump in? Joe Contreras, Peter Berkner. Well, all right, Arvo. Maybe cart fleet management's not that sexy after all.
I was going to throw one piece on that as you were talking about that. I ran into a fleet through Club Car that we had at Plymouth Pines when I was up there. It was still under warranty, and the batteries went bad. I took some phone calls. Actually, ended up calling back to Georgia. We were losing batteries in the 3rd year of the lease, and they were kind of piecing it together. Well, we got them to put full new batteries in it between the 3rd and 4th year of the lease. And so then we ended up buying it out and being able to use the carts for a couple extra years, and then of course selling them off as the new fleet came in. But you know, there is something to be said about, you know, having the service warranty on them and that taking care of them, and because there was nothing we could do. If you understand golf carts, the M cores were malfunctioning in them, which was causing the batteries to surge and overheat, which when they were charging, they were overheating, and so it was boiling the water in them, and that's what ended up destroying the batteries. And it was, but you know, carts are like cars. Sometimes you get a lemon, and you know, being on top of your cart fleet is it's not the most fun job to do, but it is very important when you get down to that bottom line. But I thank you guys all for going through this. You know, I think my email is attached to this. If anybody needs, you know, anything going through the PGA program, feel free to send me an email. I might not have a great answer, but I'll try to help you out. I know how challenging it is, and I just hope you guys all, you know, get through this level 1, and promise you get through level 1, level 2, and level 3 seem like cake work from then on.
Thank you very much, Arvo. On behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, we'd like to thank you for sharing your time and expertise and your experience in getting through cart fleet management as part of the level 1 work experience kit of the PGM program. Thanks for being with us this afternoon, and for all of the attendees today, thank you for joining us and supporting the LaunchPad Associate Workshops. We'll be getting together next week, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, to keep this rolling. Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great afternoon and a great week. Thanks, Arvo. Take care, everybody.
You're welcome. You guys all, everyone take care.
You too.